Mike Sills, National Football Show. Appreciate you coming aboard. Thank you very much. Before we move on here, you think there's a market for Carson Wentz? You think there's a market for him? There's always a market for shitty quarterbacks. Okay? Always a market. See him in Atlanta? Sure. Carolina? Maybe. Are you under the impression that Marcus Mariota is better than Carson Wentz? That's not true. Could he back up Mahomes in Kansas City? Could he back up Josh Allen in Buffalo? Got to have a number two guy. You got to have a number two guy. Okay? Listen to people. Marcus Mariota has never had remotely half of a season on what Wentz has done. Not even remotely close. Carson's had successful seasons. Don't forget, like your guy, he finished second in the MVP. That guy had an MVP season. Marcus Mariota has been a colossal failure everywhere he's gone. And what sucks about the comment I made, he's really a great dude. You want him to succeed. I root for him. I like him. I do. I like Marcus. Man, I've heard nothing but the greatest things about Marcus Mariota. But he's just not he's not a good player. Well, he's a good player. I wouldn't say, just he's okay. You got to have a good number two. Okay? You got to have a good number two. You know what? And again, I'm all right with it. But let me ask you here. Carson's going to land somewhere. If I were him, I would go to the most skilled positions and the best coaching. He needs coaching. So I would go to Andy. Here's the places. And get this, there's no jobs there except the backup. I'd go to Andy Reid. I might go to Los Angeles with Sean McVay. Shit, I might go to San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. Dude, if Kyle Shanahan thinks Sam Darnold's good, Carson must be doing this. Hey, I'll take my shot over there too. Yeah. Okay? He needs coaching. You go to those places. You go to places that are looking for starting quarterbacks, it'll be the same train and it'll be the same conveyor belt for him. Okay? Be the same conveyor belt. By the way, last time he was with Frank Reich, he threw for 3,800 yards, 68 completion percentage, 27 touchdowns, 7 INTs. I mean, they won 9 ball games. I don't know. That's not a horrible year. It's better than anything that Marcus Mariota's ever put up. And he was in the AFC. I don't know. I get what's happened here. I totally do. You know what's happened to Carson Wentz? The same thing that happens to a lot of players in the NFL. You'll keep Carson Wentz on your team, but you know what? I'm not keeping Carson Wentz at $38 million. He's not worth it. Wentz's contract is killing him. His contract's killing him. Dude, you can't walk in there, put up decent numbers, and make $38 million. Even Cousins puts up better numbers. Can't do that. Cousins puts up 13 wins up there last year. 4,000 yards. Again, I get it. Spotlight, guy melts in the pan, all that. He still puts up – he's actually put up numbers since DC. I mean, dude, the all-time single-season touchdown and yardage guy for the Eagles is still Wentz. Always remember that. So if I'm him, I got to go to a place that's got some decent coaching. Sean McVay might be a place for him. Back up Stafford. He needs to learn some shit, how to prepare. I mean, the $38 million is killing him. When that contract runs out, it'll be the best thing in my opinion, in his life. Because then he's just going to be Chase Daniels after that, and he's got to build himself up. And if he can't, he's out. Okay, so no shit off your back. Now that he's been cut, I think there's got to be teams you have to have some interest in him. There's a ton of shitty coaches. There's a ton of shitty backup quarterbacks. Do you understand that the Eagles have, they got a backup quarterback now who was a first-round selection, who now also is on a fourth team. Your guy's worse of a career than Wentz. So don't make it sound like you signing some sort of diamond in the rough. You're not. You're not. He's had a worse career. Carson, compared to him, is Joe Namath. The contract kills that guy. I do believe. So let me say this to you, and let me ask you if you would be willing to do this. How many people would entertain the comment that Cam Newton said today? He picked about 5 players that he would be willing to back up and be the backup quarterback for. You know who one of those players is? Jalen Hurts. I'm not asking Cam to come in and start. I'm asking Cam to come in and be his backup. He's better than Mariota. Could he help? Former MVP? Could he help Jalen? Cam's not like Gardner Minshew. He's not getting the job. And once you make $50 million, that's evident. You're not getting the job. So, I mean, it's not a quarterback competition. The quarterback competition's over. They're looking for a capable guy to come in and help. So you under the impression that Gardner Minshew and Marcus Mariota are better than Cam Newton? You're trying to tell me you think you got a better backup quarterback than Cam now. I completely 100% disagree with that. Can Cam start 17 games in the NFL today? No. I do not believe that. I do not. But can Cam give you 4 quarters or 8 quarters? I do believe that. Cam wants to start. Well, every player should want to start. So, Jesus, you give me a player that doesn't want to start? I don't want him on my roster. Every guy you have on your roster should want to start. But reality kicks in. Jeffy goes, Cam would dilute the culture. So you think a guy like Cam Newton as a backup quarterback could destroy the culture that the Eagles have put in for 23 years? What do you think? This is preschool? Are you crazy? There's not a guy in the – Terrell Owens couldn't dilute that culture because they'd cut him. They're not – you couldn't – I'll tell you this. Remember that guy Percy Harvin? Shit, when he started acting like a tool and a fool up in Seattle, what did Carroll do? You're out. Not having any of that. When you got a strong organization, stop talking to these players like they're preschool kids and they don't know how to handle their own house. You make the players sound dumb and you look down on them when you talk like they're infants. I hate when people and fans do that shit. One guy can come in and ruin a culture, then there's something wrong with your culture. If a man can Change your way of doing things. There's something wrong with you. That's why sometimes you get into a relationship with a woman and you try to change to make her happy. Only thing in the end is you make yourself miserable. Not me. Not me. Okay, so Cam, I thought, quite frankly, I got to tell you how I read this. I loved it. Because you know what this means to me? Cam Newton would be willing to be a backup quarterback to Jalen Hurts. Shows you the kind of respect that Hurts is now earning and what Hurts is now building around the league and how people look at him. Let me tell you something. A year ago, there's not a chance in hell Cam Newton would put Jalen Hurts' name on a list. This guy has one of the fastest rises I've ever seen in my life, from being a guy who was drafted to the Eagles to be a safety belt and a backup quarterback to being a guy who's on the cusp of getting a $50 million deal and being the best quarterback in the NFC. It's absolutely freaking remarkable. His climb to the top of the NFC, I'm trying to think of Dak's rise was pretty big and pretty fast because he had to overcome another thing. He had to overcome Jerry Jones because Jerry Jones is love child's Tony Romo. We all know this. Jerry Jones looks at Tony Romo like he's the greatest quarterback in the history of the Cowboys. And when Tony Romo talks on TV, you would swear he's got Aikman's resume. And you go like this. How many playoff wins that guy got again? I think Jalen Hurts has more playoff wins than Tony Romo has in 17 years. Every time I listen to Romo talk, I go, what did you do again? I must have missed that. Every time he talks about playoff football, I'm going, what did you do in the playoffs? This guy talks like he's Troy Aikman. And Dak had to overcome that. Dude, I'll tell you this. I think Dak's better than Romo. I think Dak's a better player than Romo. If I had to choose between those two dudes to be the quarterback of my team, I'm going to take Dak. I got a better chance of winning with Dak, who had a ton of interceptions last year, than Romo. I don't know. Romo's like a cheap man's version of Brett Favre. I mean, but Jerry loved him. You know why? Because they found this undrafted guy. They matured him. They developed him. What have you? And they went down that avenue, and they got this on. Hey, by the way, he completely overachieved. I'm not going to say that. He completely overachieved. The breed goes, they're both ass. I'll tell you one more thing about this thing with Dak before we move on. Homie's got to win this year. Dude, you got to win. I ain't paying you $50 million to shit the bed again. That's done. I am over. I am over that. Okay? You got to start making financial decisions with the Cowboys. You know the biggest problem with the Cowboys? Dude, you got to act more like the Bengals a little bit. Put that zipper on that checkbook. You overpay for everyone in that building. You overhype them. Dude, Micah Parsons, wait till his contract comes up. They'll overpay that guy, and he'll be the next Jalen Smith. All right. Let me go over here with this now. Hey, real quick. So Gardner Johnson, remember we had this conversation the other week about Gardner Johnson barking back at the Bengals, or excuse me, at the Eagles. Remember? Guys talking shit, going back and forth. We had a dialogue, this and that, all that. Remember that, right? Okay. Guys throwing shade. Hey, the Lions have it. We heard AJ talking shit on the Titans in the past, right? So Tyreek Hill says that the Chiefs are going to see their worst enemy this coming year when they see me. if I'm Kansas City, I'm not saying nothing. You know what I would say if I'm Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? He's a great player, man. He's probably going to be hell on wheels to defend when he comes to Arrowhead. We really look forward to seeing our friend. Kill him with kindness, because you know why? Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have the ultimate FU. I won with Juju Smith-Schuster, not you. You don't have a Super Bowl ring. You didn't win that Super Bowl here. You got a ring from the past. You got the other one. But we didn't need you. Nobody wants to be. Hey, I believe Tyreek Hill. Hey, watch this. You love your cheetah. What? Wait a minute, yo. Watch this. I believe the cheetah is doing this. Hey, man, I'm really happy for my friends. But then in the back of his mind, don't you think he's doing this? Shit. They won without me. Nobody wants to see that. Hey, man, you want to see success for your friends. But there's always a competitive part of you that does this shit. Damn. They won that thing without me, man. Hey, Yale, take the high road? Yeah, hey, watch this. There's my Super Bowl ring. That's the high road. Hey, watch this. Look, pretend this is the Super Bowl, and here's Patrick Mahomes. You know what, Cheetah? You're right. Everything's great. Hey, man. Well, everything. I hope everything works out for you. Hey, I hope it's good. Dude, the ultimate FU is that you have the Super Bowl ring and you didn't need that guy. You didn't need him. He's down in my. You know what's crazy? He got the bag of money. Like the same thing that CJ Gardner. He got the bag of money. You won. What are you doing? Ego. Okay? Ego. Yacht goes, you'd say the same thing. You're probably right, Yacht. You're probably right. Wait, Yacht. Hey, hang on. Yacht, I'm not saying I'm any better or any worse than them dudes. I'm probably just like them guys. You guys know that I got to run and battle with a certain dude that's in Philly. And you know what? My bosses all the time go, stop it. Seriously, I'm doing my best. Seriously. Everybody's got that in them, though. AJ too, man, with the Titans. So this is not an uncommon thing with athletes or competitive people. Cheetah's like, the Chiefs, I'm going to be the Chiefs' biggest nightmare. No, you're not. The Chiefs' biggest nightmare is what steakhouse to go to at night so that they can go there and get a free meal and show their Super Bowl rings. Okay? That's their big. Patrick Mahomes' biggest concern is his brother's big fat mouth, not the cheetah's mouth. Am I right when I say that? Mahomes is more worried about his stupid brother than he is the cheetah. Yeah, man, the cheetah, I really love him. He's a great player. One of the greatest deep threats of all time. Okay? Yeah. Dude, totally, man. Patrick Mahomes is like, no, it's my brother. Sometimes my wife. Crazy shit, man. All right. I want to throw a list at you here. You know I'm a big guy on list. How many people believe that Jalen Hurts is going to go back to the Super Bowl and win it? How many people believe Jalen is going to go back to the Super Bowl and win it? Chubb says definitely. Yep. Yes, I do. Yale. Wow, even Yale. Cody, yes. Arthur, what is that, Arthur? Arthur throws, what are you talking about? Since when did you hit the brakes? Super Bowl champ, Steve says, in 2024. GT, big old Y, I believe. Me, tone, figures. Okay. There's been, how many Super Bowls will this be coming up? Where's the Super Bowl this year? Where's the Super Bowl? Is it in Vegas? Is the Super Bowl in Vegas this year? I think the Super Bowl's in Vegas. It'll be 55. 55 legendary Super Bowl years. How many quarterbacks do you think have lost their first Super Bowl and went back and won one in their second attempt? Well, one of them didn't win it in the second attempt going back, but they lost their first one and would eventually go back and win one. How many players have done that? Pretty smart dudes. Brady didn't lose his first Super Bowl, my friend. Tom didn't lose his first one. Hurts is a trend changer. Maybe. There's been 4. Len Dawson, Bob Greasy. Can you believe Purdue, guys? Roger Staubach and John Elway. 4 dudes have lost their first Super Bowl and would eventually go back and win one. Jalen's going to be the 5th in 58 years. 4 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So Jalen's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. The point is, these guys don't go back usually and win it. There's only been 4 in 58 years. Why not? Neil says. Okay. 4 dudes in the history of the Super Bowl era have lost the Super Bowl and eventually were able to go back and win one. Look at what Yale says. If he keeps playing great, I don't think that's the case, Yale. Did you think Marino played great after his first Super Bowl appearance? Yale, didn't Marino play 15 legendary years after he lost that Super Bowl to Montana? He played great every year. Put up iconic numbers. Marino was the changing of the guard when it came to throwing the football. He played great. Okay? Yeah, don't you agree that when Dan Marino came into the sport, he made the game look different? He was a game-changing player. He was a generational player. Nobody threw the ball like that. Duper and Clayton, 55 points, 500 yards in the air, 39 completions. Nobody saw that shit. Marino's a good passer. I wouldn't say a good passer. Okay, that when you use the word good passer, Jalen's a good passer. Marino's he's a generational passer. No Super Bowl, I know. Lost the Super Bowl. First guy to throw for 5,000 yards. 48 touchdowns was the standard for generations. Iconic seasons. Never got back. Why is that? Couldn't put a team around him. Don Shula failed him. Don Shula wins a Super Bowl with Bob Greasy. got to a Super Bowl with a guy by the name of David Woodley. You had all that talent, and you couldn't build a team around him. Howie's got a lot of pressure to win a Super Bowl. Howie's got the pressure. It's not Hurts. Howie's got to continue to build that team around this investment. The Dolphins were never able to. The Bills were never able to win a Super Bowl. For Kelly. These are iconic players. And if it wasn't for Denver's change in mentality, do you know how Denver won Super Bowls for John Elway? They took the ball out of his hands. They took the ball out of John Elway's hands and put it in the hands of Terrell Davis. Imagine that. One of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the sport, John Elway. John. They basically did to John Elway what Phil Jackson did to Michael Jordan in Chicago. Hey, you want to win scoring titles? That's one thing. That's fine. We'll never win an NBA title if we don't build a team and you're not more of a team player. And if you're not a team player, we can't win. Jordan stopped winning scoring titles. That's when that 6-year run or that 6-title run started, is when Jordan stopped doing that. And Krause was able to bring the talent in and build the team around him. Howie's got the pressure to win the Super Bowl. I don't think Jalen Hurts does. Am I right when I say that? Am I right when I say that? This is Howie's. Howie's got to build a team. It's not going to be, whether or not Jalen plays great or not, it's not a factor. Well, you want him to continue to play great. Dan Marino played great. It led to nothing. It led to empty calorie stats. It led to a Hall of Fame ring. Sure. But when it came to the team sport, the number one thing why you do it, and you're in it, is to win a title. Don Shula couldn't do it, along with Joe Robbie. Yeah, it goes, the quarterback has to be great. Does he? Kelly and Marino were great. Why didn't they win? Better teams? 4 times in a row? Marino never went back? Kind of shocking. Jalen's nowhere near Elway, Marino. Again, I think this sits on Howie's desk, not Jalen. I think Jalen's going to be a fine ball player. I think he's going to do. Look at what's happening in Baltimore. They're not building a team around Lamar Jackson. They're not building a team around him. The running game's not where it once was. The defense stinks. It's not the same organization. DeCosta is by far no Ozzie Newsome. And look how the organization deteriorated around Lamar. It's a whole colossal failure there in Baltimore. Now, the one thing that the Eagles have going for them, that there's been stability in the building since 2000 on how to build an organization. A couple swings on the seesaw a little bit. 4-win season a couple years ago. The whole Wentz and Doug Peterson thing was a fiasco. Okay? The Chip Kelly thing rocked the boat a little bit. But in the end, they still won ball games. I'm telling you, this is an organizational thing that they have to do around Jalen. This is why I tell you, when you're making your right choices when it comes to the draft or free agency or how you handle your salary cap, the Eagles are in a position right now where it's razor thin on making mistakes and succeeding. Jalen Hurts continues to play well, is part of it. But I think there's more pressure on Howie Roseman to win the Super Bowl than Jalen. Jalen is a function of what Howie's doing. Got the quarterback right, got to fix the defense, got to keep things intact, got to make sure our drafts are successful, which they haven't been. Oh, wait a minute. the top end of our drafts haven't been successful, that's better. Okay? Bohemian goes, Dan, do you read comments? Of course I do. Bohemian says that I got 2 rings for Jalen Hurts. Okay? Howie is a player. There will be a player movement. Bradbury stayed for less. Did he? No, you mean Slay did. Cox stayed for less. $10 million bucks? You think Fletcher Cox could have got $10 million in the open market? I do not. Slay stayed even though the Ravens, Slay took a pay cut, but he wasn't going to get more money in the open market. Kind of not true what you're saying there, Tone. Bradbury got a hell of a deal. Jalen had the purpose long before Dan had. Eagles winning it all this year versus the Bills or Bengals. I think they'll be in the conversation. Bradbury, so he says. Okay. If he did, he did. Yale said, yeah, he said he was offered more. Maybe. Hey, why I have to believe that? Because of Javon Hargrave's comments. When Javon Hargrave says that I would not have left Philly if it wasn't for the amount of money San Fran paid, I have to believe Bradbury said when he said I was offered more money. I have to believe that. Because Hargrave didn't want to leave, and it took the $84 million from San Francisco that made him leave. So I'm gonna have to believe Bradbury. I would believe James Bradbury if he said that. I would. Okay, I would believe that. Montana playoff passer rating is 95.6. Wait a minute, relative. You're missing the most important. Joe Montana was 135 quarterback rating in the Super Bowl, threw 12 touchdowns with no picks, and he beat Marino and Elway in those Super Bowls. Wasn't like he would end. Everyone goes, well, he had Jerry Rice. No, he didn't. The first Super Bowl, he had Freddie Solomon and a guy by the name of Bert Cooper and Wendell Tyler. That's who we won and won that first Super Bowl with. Bert Cooper, Freddie Solomon, and Wendell Tyler. Montana never threw a pick in the Super Bowl and beat Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Okay? Hall of Fame quarterbacks, legendary guys. Not beat them, destroyed them. Legendary drives. Minute 19 left. You're on your own 10. You've got to go 90 yards to win the Super Bowl, to give yourself your third Super Bowl. I mean, there's John Candy. I got this, guys. Don't worry. The guy's unbelievable. I was privileged to play against him. He's unbelievable. Dude, I know you guys will always say that Brady's the best. I'm sorry, but Montana's my guy. I've never seen anything like it. This guy I've never seen it. Even I played against Elway too and Marino. I never seen anything like it. This guy was just insane. He'd come to that line of scrimmage, man, and he'd go, black 80, black 80. Everyone on the field knew, man, it was the audible to Rice. You're like, Jesus criminy. Jerry Rice went to 4.8 the combines. Every time I watch Rice running and looking up at the monitor, he's outrunning someone. I mean, it was insanity, man. That guy was insane. Dude, he was insane. You imagine Joe in today's game with Rice? So you're trying to tell me you couldn't hit Jerry Rice and you couldn't hit Montana? That guy'd win 15 Super Bowls, man. You couldn't beat him. Wendell Tyler, or not Wendell Tyler, but was Roger Craig, 1,000-yard rusher, 1,000-yard receiver. Okay, you couldn't. John Taylor was not a stiff on the other side. You couldn't beat that team. Not a chance. Walsh, the play caller? Dude, your offense and offenses in the NFL are all Bill Walsh related. He invented it. Hey, Cody, they didn't have to try to fool you. You're right, Cody. Joe could have just went, hey, 80, we're coming to you. Wouldn't have mattered. Hey, you're right. Hey, 80, it's coming to you. Nobody could have stopped it. Bob goes, gun to your head. Do you trade up for number 3 for Anderson? I think 3 is a little high. 4 and 5, yes. I want Will Anderson. Dude, there's, like I said, Bob, there's 3 dudes in this draft. Okay? There's 3 dudes in this draft. Okay? Carter, Bijan, and Anderson. Don't have everybody tell you, Miles Murphy, Nolan Smith. Sure. Give you the same impact Jordan Davis did. If you're okay with that, draft him. Draft him. Ben goes, ask the Giants. Let me see. 5 Super Bowls in the Montana era versus 2. Unless my math is wrong, 5 is greater than 2. Unless my math is wrong. Yeah. 5 is greater than 2. Just saying. You know the last 2 quarterbacks to get to AFC championships in Kansas City? You know who they are? Do you know who the last 2 quarterbacks to take their teams to AFC championships are in Kansas City? You guys will probably get it. You're right, 4. 5th one was Young's. Hey, do you know who the last 2 quarterbacks were? Okay, Ben, you can Google. Congratulations to you. Joe Montana and Patrick Mahomes are the last 2 quarterbacks in Kansas City to go to AFC title games. Joe won everywhere. Notre Dame. Hey, guys, I gotta tell you this, man. How many people like the movie Rudy? How many people like that movie Rudy? You like the movie Rudy? Dude, don't ever ask Montana about the movie. He's like, it's a television show. It's a TV movie, or it's a movie, everything. Nobody threw their jerseys on the deck. Yeah, just like, oh my God. You see, what happens is hey, Tone, every high school guy hated when Montana did that. You know why? Because every high school guy, I didn't make it to the pros because I hurt my wheel. I hurt my wheel against Cherry Hill High. And, Pensacola, and this guy clipped me. And I was playing, I would have went on to Delaware State, but instead I hurt my knee, and I was like, shit, I'd have been a star just like you. I'm sure. Hey, man, you should have seen me in ice. I was like, I know, Mr. Bundy, I know you were probably exceptional in high school. Yeah, man, I was on my way to Delaware State University, and I was on a half scholarship. They were going to pay for my meal, but I had to pay for the books, and I had to live in a trailer, but I was going to go. I was like, okay. Everyone, that movie, man, they're like this. They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's not real? Joe's like, nobody threw their jerseys on. Could you see Bob Gullick throwing his jersey on Dan Devine's desk? Hey, Dan, let Rudy dress in front of me. Oh, man. He destroyed that thing. Bob says, Dan, you loved the Davis pick last year. Dude, I told you he should have been drafted in the 20s. Loved it? Once again, I never said he wasn't a first rounder. I told you he was Vince Wilfork. You're the guys making more out of him. I never said he's a bad pick. He just ain't the 13th pick. Okay? He's not the 13th pick. A dude will never be more than what he is, a run stopper. That's it. That's okay. Eagles, once again, overdrafting. They do a lot of that in the first round. There's mountains of evidence to that. Yacht says you're saying the same about no. Carter is 1 billion times better of a ball player. Here, well, let me be very clear then. Jalen Carter is a superior player to Jordan Davis. He's more athletic. He's actually more productive. His hands are better. He gets off the blocks better. He's quicker on the line of scrimmage. His production charts are off the charts. It's not the same player. He plays like Jerome Brown. Jordan plays like Vince Wilfork. Vince is dude, you have to understand, I'm not ripping. That's not a rip on Jordan. I said he was going to be Vince Wilfork. Vince is a hurricane. I'm not dogging Vince. It's what he is. He ain't the 13th pick. You're right, GT. GT's trying to convince you guys that Jordan Davis is a better football player than Jalen Carter. It's an absolute lie. Nobody believes that but GT or some Eagle fans. Nobody believes that. Nobody draft evaluating. Nobody on the two best players in the draft this year and last year would be these two players, not Jordan Davis. But some people in Philly will have you believe that Jordan Davis is a better player than Jalen Carter. It's not true. It's totally not true. It's totally not true. Okay? Not true. Great ball players. Okay? One's better. One's better. And I would say this again. Okay? I would say this again. I want to show you something here a little bit on what Howie's done to get ready for the draft. GT, you get both those guys, you're in. Hey, dude, look at that. Hassan Reddick. You still have a weak backer you got to deal with if you get Jalen and you go down this line. Watch this. So you would have Sweat, Graham, Fletcher, Jordan, and Carter, and Milton. Bro, you're better. You would be a better interior defensive line than anybody in the NFL for the next 10 years. Shit, you're good now. You're good now. You would be sensational. Now, if you get Anderson on the other end, you would have Reddick and Anderson, Jordan Davis and Fletcher. You have to replace Fletcher soon. But your ends would be Graham and Josh Sweat. It's the best front seven in the NFL. You're a player away from making sure that San Francisco doesn't have a better front than you. You're not far behind them now. You're not far behind them. You get one of those two players, you're better than them. Like if you get Will Anderson, that's the Nick Bosa, in my opinion. That's the Nick Bosa equalizer. Because I think he would immediately have an impact in this league. You put him in space and let him hit quarterbacks, shit. That could be scary. Okay? Tony goes, Reddick is an edge rusher. Thank you very much on telling me what an edge rusher is. I appreciate that. Not going there. That's right. Yeah, I never said Jordan Davis is a slug. That's totally not true. Not true. Again, overdrafted. Ask Barrett what he thinks of him. Next time you talk to him, ask him. Ask him if Jordan Davis is overdrafted and what kind of player he is. You don't believe me? I've been saying it for like a year now, or actually since the draft. I said this. You're hoping. I'll tell you exactly what I said on draft day. Okay. So you were enamored by his 40-yard dash at the combines. I said this. You're hoping he's Fletcher Cox, and you're hoping that the floor is Vince Wilfork. You're hoping he's closer to Fletcher than Vince. Vince is a fine ball player. You're not going to get killed in the pick. You're not going to get killed in the pick. Tony, I don't give a shit what you believe. Doesn't really bug me, dog. It's all good. Most people hear like yesterday, they hear what they want to hear. Sileo said he saw Jalen Hurts' contract. No, I didn't. Nowhere in 3 hours yesterday did I say that. You guys made that up. Or some of you did. You made that up. I said I saw the framework of Mahomes' deal. And that's the deal that they're constructing in Philly. Everyone goes, oh, Sileo's telling me that he saw the – I never said that. I have no idea what the year is or the money. Yale goes, you need more production from the 13th pick. Well, that's correct. I would say this to you. Let me show you what Howie has done here, though. So Howie has now, between the Lane deal, the saving of money from Slay, saving money on Hardgrave not re-signing, and saving money on not re-signing CJ, and the deal that he signed with Bradbury has now given him roughly around $20 million in cap space. $20 million in cap space. 15 of that will go to roughly around 15 will go to 6 picks in the draft. Okay? That $20 million is for draft picks. Now, since you have $20 million, would you take that 10th pick? And like I said 2 weeks ago, would you go to Tennessee and go, I'll give you the 10th pick, sign and trade Jeffrey Simmons to me? Look at how Howie has now got himself ready in line. There's probably more work to be done here because now he's got $20 million heading into the draft. He's got the 10th and 30th pick. The only thing that he doesn't have that's in his favor is the limited amount of picks. Okay? Is the limited amount of picks, which is 6. So here are the options I think he has. Take a player. I would hope he would take the best player, but he'll probably take a need. Listen, if I have to, the kid Wilson from Texas Tech is close. The rest of them, watch this. The guy from Iowa didn't even start at Iowa. You're going to take him in the 10th pick? I saw some mock drafts. That kid Van Ness, he never started at Iowa. You're going to take him with the 10th overall pick. Not me, man. You couldn't start at Iowa, but you're going to start in Philadelphia? Do you find that weird? Would you draft a guy who never started in college? Would you draft a guy who didn't start in college and couldn't start in the Big Ten? Man, if you can't start in the Big Ten, how are you starting in Philly? He never started. You can't start in, what is that? Ames, Iowa, whatever the hell, or is that Iowa State? I don't know. One of them cornbread places. I have no idea. I think I've been to Iowa once. Okay? Which seriously never started, but hey, here's the 10th pick for this guy. I'm like, no way, man. I need more of an insurance that I'm not. See, it's not about the player. It's about making sure you don't fail there. You're looking not to fail. You're looking for a starter. You're not looking for a pro. That's why I get this. Jordan Davis's pick, you better hope he starts. Or better yet, because Howie's going to start him, you better hope he keeps his job. And Milton Williams don't beat him out. Because then it's a failure pick. If Milton Williams ends up becoming more productive than Jordan Davis, that's a failure pick. We'll know by the end of the year. Okay? We'll know by the end of the year. The biggest nightmare you have is that Milton Williams outplays him. Milton Williams is more productive. If Milton Williams outplays him, man, that guy's going to have a lot of heat on him. How many teams do you think want to move up to top 10? Green, a lot. Especially with those quarterbacks all in the top 10. A lot. Okay? I think a lot of teams. Especially if some, because Carter's going to fall, he's going to make that 10th pick more rich. See, Chicago's a team you got to look out for getting him. But see, which Chicago has no leadership whatsoever. Like Dave Wannstedt said, man, would you really, if you what makes more, look at this at 7. Tell me, I think I'm right. If you're the Bears and you got Justin Fields, do you take Jalen Carter or do you take Skornowski, who you saw play in Chicago at Northwestern? What makes more sense? The first round pick you put on Justin Fields to protect him, or go on the other side of the ball and get a defensive tackle? What makes more sense organizational wise? To get Carter, or this is why when you have a defensive minded head coach, that this is fundamentally flawed. Dude, if I'm drafting a quarterback number 1, that's why if the Eagles draft an O-lineman at 10, they're great at it. They're great at it. I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Okay? If Milton outplays himself, next big hope, throw Birds fans. Hey, I never said he was a bad player. I'm telling you he was overdrafted. Dude, he's got to keep his job. You don't know if he's going to keep it. He couldn't beat out 2 36-year-old DTs. And I got to sit here and talk to you like this guy's Fletcher Cox in his prime? He's not. Hey, by the way, history buffs. When you saw Fletcher Cox play his first year, did you know? When you saw Fletcher Cox play his first year, did you know he was a good ball player? Did you know right away? I watched Fletcher Cox play his first year. I knew that dude was a ball player. I was like, holy shit, that guy could play, man. Okay? Didn't you say that? Didn't you do this? By the way, they did go to a Super Bowl. I mean, when you saw Fletcher Cox play his first year versus Jordan Davis play his first year, You think there's a big difference? Someone goes, well, so how do you know? Well, I saw Fletcher his first year, man. That guy can play, man. You were like this. That guy is good. Dude, he jumped off did he not jump off the tape at you his rookie year? You're like this. Shit, this guy is good, man. He's going to be around a long time, man. Shit, after a while, I thought he was the second best interior lineman to Aaron Donald. And I thought him and Sue were right there together. I mean, you're like, shit. Look at me, Tone. I go by the post again. Philly 500 is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. I got to get my boy in here. I want to get his thoughts. And we got a couple questions here for him, too, as well. So we're going to get your thoughts as well. We'll reset. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on.